Breitbart is gospel.
Oh, Jesus.
Alex
I'm
Jones
done.
is
I'm
Jesus.
going to hang up. You've lost me now, sir.
What? Alex Jones is not Jesus?
No, I don't know what the fuck he is.
I dropped out of
He's
this
no
conversation
Jesus.
about 12 minutes ago. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. I'm like, okay, well.
Welcome to the James Chambers Show on YouTube. This channel is devoted to the early portions of the show, the equipment testing, the early studio tests. It was a lot of fun for us to do, and I really hope that you enjoy what we put out for you. Keep your eyes open for when the show goes live. And until then, keep listening. Feel free to subscribe, and thank you very much. There's an interesting difference between saying, you know, we have freedom of speech and therefore it is okay to allow neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups to march and to let their message be heard and to let people like Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos and, you know, Richard Spencer have these people have, you know, lectures and spout their rhetoric. That is freedom of speech. True. But it's when a group of athletes in this particular case uses their freedom of speech to comment on racial discrimination and mistreatment by police on minority groups, is that not also freedom of speech and is just as valid, if not more so, than allowing white supremacists to march and say that
what they try to say there, though, is that, you know, that's their job.
Right.
And,
shut up and play.
And you don't have... Well, not necessarily that way, but it's not like we could go to our job and say racist things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That just because you have freedom of speech doesn't mean that you aren't held accountable to your speech. And that's why I said I don't necessarily agree that they should be fined, but if they have some sort of clause in their signing contract that says you can't do this and they do it, then they get fined. And that's part of their choice then.
Sure.
But the president stepping in and saying that, and that's like if he heard this podcast and said that Nick, he said this and he should be fired from his job because he said this.
Right.
That's a different platform. That is not an acceptable way to use freedom of speech. And frankly, I don't know if the president deserves the same level of freedom of speech that an ordinary citizen of the United States has. Because it's much more tenuous of the things that he says and the strength of the words he says and the reach that he has from his voice. It's not the same thing as me saying, you know, I don't like the president. If he goes, that guy is scum and he should be fired or he should be put in jail or something, he has power behind that. He has people that react to that. And
Correct.
That's, I don't know.
Yeah, for the president to say something like that, too, it's kind of scary. Like, so we can't make statements then.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that is
When
correct.
is he stepping in then saying, we are now not allowing you guys that freedom of speech? It starts at a sporting event, but who knows where that goes? It can be anything that he doesn't like.
Well, thank God it's America and we can do that kind of
That's
shit.
right.
Well, that's
Am I
exactly
right?
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things is that we do have groups who actively try to protect, you know, for all the times. What?
Just
Nick
whoosh
just
my ears. I got to take my headphones off.
Nick took his cans off.
Cans.
Yeah, there are groups that will actually defend people's and groups' civil liberties on both sides. And for all the crap you might hear about, for example, the ACLU, they have stepped up and defended, you know, some of these white supremacist groups to allow them to march and allow them to express their opinions and to be, I mean, because they have a right to do it. And just because I personally think that those views are abhorrent and disgraceful and nothing that I want to be associated with, they have a right to peacefully assemble and express their view. And so you have these groups who do try to protect that. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate living in a country where we can talk all the shit we want and we can say our beliefs and say our views and attempt to change other people's minds and be active and criticize. And that's the big one, is to criticize people publicly and not be afraid of retribution.
And, well, especially at the level of the president.
Correct. Well, yeah, on any level up to and including the president, as long as you don't threaten his life.
No.
I mean, that's the barrier. If you attempt to threaten the president's life verbally, you are in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
But everything below that is basically free game.
If we were like 10,000 miles away, North Korea, we'd be hunkered in a basement right now, and our hearts would be pumping because they could fucking kill us for this, and that would be totally
They
legal.
probably would.
We would be disappeared.
Yeah.
Disappeared, yes.
And then our family would be born in a prison state, and you would never get out. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can improve, but this is one of the fundamental things that we should never allow to be threatened, and that is that freedom of discontent.
Yes.
If we
freedom
lose
of
that,
discontent.
and we're always going to have discontent. One side or the other is never going to be totally happy with what the other side in power is pulling. But as long as we're allowed to voice our opinion, then there's hope for a better tomorrow. But
Amen.
Nick. Well put, man.
Well said.
And you know, if I kind of see it as a game, and you know, I'm not saying I say it here tonight, see it here tonight, but there's all kinds of like trigger words. It's like it's all just this strategic media operations, and like this is what you think about. This is kind of where we're going to focus everyone's attention while, you know, there's still, you know, genocide going on all over the world.
Yeah.
There's these real problems going on, you know.
Oh, we don't want to fix the real problems.
You know, and so it's just a game.
Yeah. Well, and you're, you know, when you contextualize what we're talking about, just not even us tonight, but us as a country, and say, you know, take a broader look, and there are genocides happening in multiple countries right now. There are people, you know, Mexico just got hit twice with earthquakes. You know, there's been
we'll
multiple
hear about
hurricanes.
that for 2 weeks till we get bored of it.
True.
I mean, that's what happens. There's a new disaster every fucking week, and it just takes one more week and we forget about the last, you know?
Well, that's entirely true. So, but if we take that long view, if we were to prioritize valuing other people's struggles and saying, okay, maybe there's something we can do to positively impact them.
Nope, nationalism, no globalization, no.
Well, that's true.
Nope.
However,
America first.
MAGA.
And here, I'm reiterating his point.
Yeah.
I'm just chanting a fucking phrase line.
And that's the scary thing is like we joke and like say hopefully people aren't like that, but you know, in some minds there's a small trace of that. I'm sure like, all the way up to like there's probably some pure extremes.
What would be nice is if we could all understand that most of us are coming from the same place and could be in the middle on most topics. We're real polarized right now, so.
I think most reasonable people are, and I think a lot of people are very reasonable.
Yeah.
Anyone that's actually willing to listen to someone else talk and go, you know, even though you said that, I don't agree with you, but I don't hate you for it. That's how diplomacy is. You don't agree, but you figure things out. And that's what we need to get back to. But right now, it's my way is the only way, and your way is totally wrong, and you're a demon for it. And that's the other side, is we like to see the other person as this evil entity, and that makes it easier to hate them and get riled up over any decision the other makes. And we can't function in the future if we can't get over this, if we can't somehow come back.
Well, there's this dividing always going on, and now it's like either you're a Republican Nazi or you're a liberal entitled snowflake. It's like there's nowhere in between.
Socialist.
It's like I can't speak for anybody else, but I pick and choose what I like and what I don't like, and it has no affiliation of any particular party.
Sure.
You know.
Well, and anymore,
Well, that's
I think
the moral decision. That's awesome for you to do, actually.
Well, that's what you got to do.
I think that's the best way anyone could do is say, on this particular thing that happened, I disagree or don't or agree, instead of saying my stance is this, totally political side. But it's so hard to get out of that categorization because that's what they do on purpose.
Two-party system, man. It's difficult. Us versus them. you know?
Fundamentally. On a fundamental level, it's always us versus them. And there's something to be said for, going back. Well, I mean, really, it goes back to before the Tea Party. But before that whole hyper-conservative movement, there was a lot of just hemming and hawing and backroom dealing, and people would well, look, I'll give you a little bit on this bill, but in 6 months I'm proposing this farm bill. You give me a little bit there, and there's a lot of backroom grease the wheels, and that doesn't happen like it used to. And at the time, I used to think that was terrible. It's a bunch of old guys in suits in a dark, cloudy, smoky room
bunch
making
of rich
decisions.
Guys, yeah.
But now I look back on those days and think, well, shit, things actually got done.
Yeah.
There was there was bipartisanship, and things actually happened.
Yeah,
whereas
bipartisan, that's what I was going to comment on, is that you are then getting voices from both sides, at least getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Right now, it's, I want 100%, and if I only get 90%, it's not enough, and I hate you. And if we could go back to that where you give and take a little bit and actually get things done and everyone gets something out of it, then I think there's going to be less people left behind and less people trying to find others to blame, because at least somebody is being heard on all topics.
Well, I agree with that. Oh, man. Well, gentlemen, we've got an hour and 21 minutes.
Fucking get real.
Yeah. That's an hour and 21 minutes of straight recording time.
Wow. That's impressive, dude. I thought it was going to be like 30.
Yeah.
40,
I did not expect it to go this long, honestly.
Well, that was cool. Give me another shot of that fucking liquor, man. I'll end with that.
I got to drive.
Just give me a swaller. I'm going to take a little suckle here.
Agreed.
Come on, Nick. You go one more?
Well, it's just like a
beginning and end, baby.
Shit. Okay.
All right, that's
don't do this at home, you ass monkeys.
Did you just call our audience ass monkeys?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously though, when I first sniffed it, it gave me like the vomit kind of.
I thought you were gonna yak on the table.
It like puckers your whole face.
But, you know what was funny is I saw that happen to you, and then I did it, and the exact same reaction happened. And I was like, "Oh, I should have learned from that," but no.
Oh my god.
You can't really prepare for the smell, though. That's the thing.
No,
and it doesn't taste
so
that bad.
fucking
But the smell will get you.
Aromatic is definitely a term for it.
Jeez.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
I almost think that we should recommend this to other people just so they can get it to experience it, because it is something unique and special.
Make sure they smell it. A lot of people don't
Unique
smell
Oh,
it.
you have to.
Get a good old...
That's the only fun part of it, is smelling it first.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for helping me with this first test run of the finished, completed studio, to hear what we sound like, to test the equipment, to make sure things were running nicely. I really appreciate your input. I really appreciate your help. And I appreciate you coming over and hanging out.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. Thanks for the food, boy.
It's good to have friends.
Times.
Amen.
Thank you, friends. Appreciate you.
Back at you.
Thank you for listening to the James Chambers Show on YouTube. We greatly appreciate your support. Please subscribe to the page to get notifications when we release new content. Please like the page, and of course, leave a message for us in the comments section below. We greatly appreciate all your input and support, and thank you to Ben Sounds for providing the music. We look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.